Hello everybody, welcome to my next video. Today we are going to talk about this distro you see right here. So you can probably see I have done a lot of customizing with this, because you see I've got all these desktop icons. And so the thing is here, this distro is called Peppermint. And so this is a fairly nice distro in my opinion, and you can probably tell by now, because of all this customization and maybe some other things, that I have in fact installed this on my hard disk. And that is true in fact. And so I'm going to now talk about why this is my favorite distro, and what it's good for, and the system requirements. So now on to the description of this Linux distro. And so first though, let me provide you a little bit of background information on why I chose this as my usual Linux distro. And so the first thing to say is that I have had a lot of experience with previous distros, in terms of testing that is. And so I have tested a lot of distros on this laptop, and if you have watched my Linux Mint review, I went over my system specs, which was a 2.7 GHz CPU and 8 GB of RAM. Although I've tested a lot of them that were much more demanding than this, I particularly liked this one because it just looked more simpler and more desirable in terms of elegance. Of course, not everyone would say that, but that's just what I thought of it. And so, now I'm going to describe to you what this is good for. And so, the first thing I personally think about this, it's really good for anyone who wants a lightweight Linux distro as a desktop that requires very little hardware. And so, I'm going to explain why this is so lightweight in a minute once we get to the specs. And it's also good for those who like customization. And so, you can see here, I've installed a lot of these, you see icons here. You can see I've got Celestia, Citra, and Dolphin, which are two emulators that I hope to be testing in this video, maybe RetroArch. And so, yeah. I will now proceed to the specs of the system and what it requires. So the system requirements of Peppermint OS include 1 GB of RAM and 20 GB of storage. However, that is just the minimum requirements. For comfortable usage, it is recommended that you have 4 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage. You will also need an x86 64 CPU, and it is also worth noting that Peppermint OS is solely based on Lubuntu, which in itself is a derivative of Ubuntu. And so because of that, if it's based on Lubuntu, you can see we've kind of got that LXDE desktop. But you can also see here that maybe you see it, but this is the XFCE taskbar, and so it is also mentioned in the Peppermint OS description that it is a hybrid blend between LXDE and XFCE. However, it uses the LX session, and it also integrates XFCE GUIs like this, right here, the taskbar, you can see it. And so, now that I've gone over the system requirements, we are now going to explore this wonderful Linux distro. Okay, so the first thing I figured I wanted to show you anyway was the home page of Peppermint. And so, you can access it right here. This is their homepage. You can see you can download it here, and I also found out that one thing definitely worth talking about was ICE. And so this is a really cool program that they decided to put in with Peppermint. And so I'm going to show you what that is. It's right here. And so basically what you can do, you can see here you've got an SSB manager basically. And so what you can do is, you can also put links in here. So say for example if I wanted to put, let me think. Let's just test out, let's do roblox.com. I know Roblox doesn't work on Linux, but that's just a test. And so what if I wanted to just type the title there? And so basically what it's going to do is, it's going to display within the menu here the path. It depends on what you choose, but you can see this is set to internet, so it's going to set a path to Roblox under the internet section of the menu. and then it's going to show up over here somewhere, and you can directly access it. And so if I choose to apply this, I'll just test that out anyway. Internet, right there. Slowly loading, it might work. Coming up, yep. I have never been a huge fan of Firefox, so that's why I kind of always used Chrome here. Okay, see, there we are, it loaded, perfect. And so that means you can directly access it from the internet menu right here. And so that's one of the key features of Peppermint, is basically the ICE integrations. And so now we're going to run a few tests on this OS. And so here we are again, and I've got here a 4K video that I've downloaded, and I'm actually not playing this on YouTube. I'm playing this on my native media player, which you can see right there where my cursor is. And so we're just gonna play this. It's a tour of Antarctica in 4K. And I've also got some of the specs of the video right here. You can see all this. And so we're going to hit play. There we go. I figured I'd do a test this time in my native video player because I thought it would be better than YouTube in performance, and it kind of looks like that way is the real way. As you can see, maybe if you saw my previous Linux Mint video, it had a few times where it kind of struggled to play, but like it would kind of lag a little bit, but this is doing pretty good in the media player that came pre-installed with Peppermint, so I am generally impressed with this. Yep, there are the penguins. Isn't that nice? We got such a calming video of Antarctica. If I could take a cruise there, I most certainly would. But you can kind of see that it basically doesn't struggle, and so I am now going to test another test. So in this next test, I'm just going to, for example, show you the speed of, for example, maybe loading a web page or loading a website, which is something I didn't do in my previous video. And with that being said, I will be right back. Okay, we're back here again, and so now I'm just going to test a few software things like here, for example, Google. So if I click on this, you can see it really comes up really fast. Didn't struggle to open it, it's so Firefox, so I'm going to say this right now, I believe Firefox on this OS particularly is much slower, so yeah, it kind of takes a little longer, you can see. I'm not really used to the interface of Firefox anyway, so we can close that out. And you can kind of see here, we got a few emulators, but I'm going to start off by opening Celestia right here. You can see that. Might take a little bit to load. It's a bigger software. There we go. Coming along. Okay. Doing good. Yes, there we are, planet Earth. Let's see that. Where should we go? Just to test out this nice little piece of software. Yeah, sure, let's go to Jupiter. Let's see here. Oh, we got a little tiny moon there, huh? And we can see the 3D is really good. It doesn't struggle at all with this operating system. Just as it shouldn't. You see down there. Oh, there's Jupiter. There we go. Very nicely done. There's a lot of good things in here. And so now let's just test a few more programs. And so one of them I'm just going to test right now. This little thing right here is a game of Hangman, which I have natively installed on Cool Math Games, which I always remembered using for a very long time. Oh god, we got an advertisement. Oh, I wish this didn't come with ads, and neither did I wish I had to pay to get rid of them. Don't you all wish that? There we go. Looking good. Test this out. Whoa. No. Well, that's that. But you kind of get the idea that this runs pretty smoothly and all. And so, what else should we test? What else? Well, nothing really, but I will tell you I will get to the emulation soon enough. But the next thing we're going to discover are these two things here, which are the software manager and the software. And I will be right back. And so now, as I promised, I would load up each of these catalogs right here of the software. So first we're just going to start with this basic software manager. Should load up pretty soon. There we go. You can see, if you saw my video of Linux Mint review and testing, it was very similar to this layout. You see you had the 12 applications up here, along with the categories. And so, if you had watched my Linux Mint video, there's really nothing much to see here, but you kind of get the idea if that's the case. Otherwise, I'm just going to show you that, yes, you can download different things here. Like that. You got GIMP and Steam, Blender. Never used Blender before. But it's pretty much the same thing as Linux Mint. But you see we got a lot of games here, emulators, one of my special favorites. And so that's really kind of the software center that you basically got the installation packages by ooh, sorry. You kind of got the installation packages categorized, and if you want to, like, you know, basically the same thing, you can view the description, and you got the size and the description right here about the package version, and you've also got the user ratings. You can see what people wrote right there. Yes, I'm very sorry if I was kind of clearing my voice. I mean, I recently just got over a cold. I'm okay though. And so we got basically that, you know. And so now let's move to the bigger picture, which is actually the software, which is the larger of the catalogs that I just was going to show you. You can see it's got much bigger. It's much bigger. It's more expanded upon. You can see here. It kind of looks more detailed. I don't know if that's a word, but it definitely is more detailed. You can see that we actually have more choices here than we did in the software manager right up there. You can kind of see that it's definitely a different interface, and I only really have to go here if I'm looking for bigger programs and whatnot. It might take a little bit to load the whole thing. There we go. You can see we got all different sorts of things here that we didn't really see in the software manager. Let's go to photography and graphics. There we go. See similar things like Blender and GIMP. And so, same thing, you can also just click on the app, and you'll get a description, the requirements you can see here, and the license, and much more things that you actually didn't really see. But you also get these little age ratings, and I haven't really figured out what each rating means, but that would be interesting to figure out, I believe. And so you get to see the website too. If you want to go to the website, that's very nice. Alright, so I've went through that pretty much, and the next test I'm about to do involves emulators, and I'm going to pull them out right here. 1, 2, 3, and then 4 right there. I think that's all of them. Yeah, pretty much just these ones. I'll go through one of them by one. So RetroArch is just, it kind of emulates a lot of systems, ranging from as simple as the NES to the Wii and stuff like that. The Dolphin emulator is basically GameCube and Wii. Citra basically deals with just the Nintendo 3DS. And to Zoom, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I do, deals with the Nintendo DS and not the 3DS. So we're going to go through each and every one of these with the emulation process coming up. And so here I am emulating Mario Party 4 on Dolphin emulator. You can kind of see the frame rate up here is a little lower, but it doesn't seem to be having a great impact on the whole game itself. So let's go in here, I'll just test a little bit. Slowing a little bit, but a little slower, a little bit. We're definitely getting a slower experience than I anticipated, but you can kind of see it is basically, you can kind of see it's really slow a little bit. And you might know by specs if you watched my previous video of Linux Mint, which I had mentioned while looking at the system settings, but I guess this thing just, it is really slow, but I'm going to move on to the next test of the next emulator, and so I will be right back. And so, yes, I'm back again. You can see I'm running RetroArch right here. I got some games here. I'm going to, let's start with this one. No, let's do this one. A little bit. It just exited full screen mode. There we go. I have incorrectly configured these controllers, so it might kind of be weird, but you can see when I press start, it also activates the home menu. But you can kind of see it really kind of interferes, and that's just on me. I hope it doesn't bother any of you. And so here we are, testing Super Mario All-Stars and Yoshi's Island. Working good so far. Very good. It doesn't really struggle, but I do notice kind of at the base of the game, you can see where Mario's moving. A little bit, depends where you're standing, but there kind of seems to be that little strip of graphics or whatever that kind of makes a weird effect over it, and so that might just be my system or the game I'm using, but it shouldn't do anything, I guess, bad overall. You can see overall, though, it's doing really good, and I'm impressed with it. And so, that kind of concludes the first emulation of RetroArch, along with the emulation I just did of Dolphin. And so next we are going to move on to the third emulator right here, Citra. And so I will be right back. So here we are, we're now running Citra. You can see this is the game I'm running, Tomodachi Life. Coming along a little bit. And so I think it's worth pointing out that based off my experience with Citra in comparison to the other emulators, this is the one I least expected to work the best. And so I think it's kind of weird though, because this really is very, very 3D, and so if you watched the Dolphin emulator previously, it didn't really do so well, but this is really running really good. You can see a little rock battle. If any of you realize these CPUs right here, that's you probably realize them from Wii Sports. But it really does kind of good stuff so far, as far as what I see. Let's see here. Oh, really good.
How's it going? I'm pretty sure Helen is my really close friend. But what do you think about me and Helen?
Really running fast, and I don't know why, but I cannot. Oh, never mind. I do not know what
I couldn't agree more.
I was about to say, but I was about to say I didn't really know if I could view how fast this was going, but it's right down here, and so you can see the maximum speed. It doesn't run at 60 frames per second, but it just runs at 30. And the speed in comparison is going to kind of line up with this gameplay. And so it's really running good so far. And I think that's a good thing. And I think it's also worth noting though, and I'm really sorry about this one, but I could not get RetroArch to work because the program, I don't know what's wrong with it, it just couldn't work right. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not talking about RetroArch. I'm talking about this one. The Zoom, I couldn't get that one really to work because the program was experiencing a lot of lag, and so it just really wasn't worth testing out. I'm really sorry, and I'm also sorry that I said RetroArch instead. But you can see here we're really doing good. Yep, doing good so far. And so I'm going to show you after this a few additional features throughout the desktop that I think are worth noting. And so with that being said, I will be right back. And so I'm back again. I'm just going to move these over a little bit. Right there. Perfect. Sorry, I'm just moving these over. Okay, so as I was saying, I was going to show you how to customize all this. And you can see here it says Peppermint Settings Panel. That's where you can do most of it. There we go. Make it bigger. Nope, maybe not. That's too spacious, but you can see here we got a lot of other things such as the look and feel. That's basically just like your desktop preference, like how it looks. So if you wanted to, you could change the window look, and you could change the color of like the desktop panel. You can also change the icons, which I think is really cool, but I like sticking with what I have. Cursor, the font, and other things you might want to change. And so that's really the biggest part of what you might do here. You've also got panel preferences. And so you can see here we got a few things. Appearance, items. That's kind of another thing. And so, ooh, I don't know what I just did. Let's reset that, hopefully. No, I guess you learn new things every day. I did not expect that to just randomly change my panel. Alright, well, on with that. So you can change the wallpaper here, and I've actually uploaded a ton of wallpapers. You can probably see here that of all the wallpapers I've ever installed, they will appear on my desktop. And you can also set a certain folder right here if you wanted to, which is what I've done. You see, the coral reef one is the one I have right now, and it goes through them as a slideshow only because I've got this application called Variety installed, and it kind of just makes the desktop more animated, and it doesn't come pre-installed with Peppermint, so I think it's a good thing to put in your system if you want a better feel, that is. And so we can see we've got hardware, so we can change it to display, find more printers, change the sound. So here that's the sound bar. Also got the networking, and this is also another place where ICE you can access, which I mentioned earlier. The Bluetooth manager, and we got more stuff, such as the disk utility, which you can just view all your hard disks right here. And a few others, such as, which we already did, the software manager, uses in groups. We've also got this here, which is kind of an extension to what you just saw right here with the settings panel. But you can also kind of change a few more other things here, such as the title font and title alignment, which kind of just correlates to what the window should look like. We've also got the keyboard options and how fast you want the mouse to move and stuff like that. We've got the shortcuts right here. You see we get a lot of them here. And then the desktop effects, which, you know, so if I wanted to change the opacity of a window, depending on if I'm moving it like this, you can see it's more opaque. Or if I just wanted it to completely be solid all the way through, I would change some of these. So you can also see a few things here, which accessibility in workspaces, which the workspaces are all these. You can change them if you want. If you have too much on here and you want to switch over to do more work and stuff. And so that's kind of really the customability. I mean, there's a few other things, such as the terminal right here. You can see that. And other than that, that's really kind of the wrap-up of this OS, and I think it's a really good thing that I'm using this and I'm liking it. And so now I'm just going to conclude after this. And so that kind of does it for this video. I think I've explained what I needed to. And so, once again, Peppermint OS is a really good desktop in my opinion. I think anyone could use it if they set their mind to it, especially because it's very lightweight, as I said earlier, with the LXDE interface. And that's kind of really it. I mean, if you have any questions about this distro, you can ask them in the description below. And so, I will see you in the next video, where I hope, if all goes as planned, I will review another distro called Linux, which is a completely different Linux distro based on the Mate interface, and it's based on Ubuntu. Stay tuned, everybody!